exactly do you find anything in there? Welcome to Crocs in the Kitchen.
I'm Brian.
And I'm Jessica.
Yes, this is not a recipe video. This is not just a normal talking video.
It's an organizational video!
Oh my God,
I
she
got
was
really
so
excited
about that. Yes, so if you guys remember back in before Christmas, we did a video about gift ideas and whatnot, and Jessica mentioned giving organizational items of some kind.
Which is like my dream come true for a gift. But these things that we're going to use today, I actually bought for myself, I think back in August. So this has been a long time coming. I have actually been researching for years to try to figure out how to organize Brian's spices. Now, the cabinet behind us that you can see kind of open up there has housed all of our spices, most of them, and then overflow into the pantry. And I wanted to figure out a way to organize them so that when I'm trying to help him cook, because I do help you cook quite a bit, and I also like follow recipes and cook myself. He's the recipe developer, but when I go in there, I need to be able to find the spices that I'm looking for, and I can never find anything. Brian has in his brain like where everything is supposedly, but yeah, it just doesn't work for me.
Yeah, I'm the type of person that if I put it away, if I organized it, even if it's complete chaos, if I put it where it was, then I remember exactly where it is. And unless it's moved, then that's the only time when I'll like not be able to find anything.
The problem is certain people would come in and move and try to reorganize things, and then he couldn't find them either, and it was a whole big mess.
And then it turned into this whole thing of me giving instructions when she's like, "Where's this at?" And I'm like, bottom row, halfway back on the left side should be this with this cap.
Yeah, there are times when I seriously got like anxiety just going in there and trying to find spices. So this has been something that I've wanted to do for a very long time. And a lot of times I do my research for how I want to do stuff by just looking up different products and reading reviews like on Amazon and stuff like that. And so I actually like the fact that they let people upload their own photos, because it's one thing to see the pretty photos that like, the seller posts and how it's going to be used, but I want to see how people are actually using it. And that's how I got the idea of doing a spice drawer. One of the first things I found were like these spice drawer liner, these rolls of spice drawer liner that you could cut to fit the drawer that you had. And we have a nice big drawer in our island right in front of us here. That's right across from where Brian does all the cooking. And so I thought that would be a good place to store everything. Then I found some other products, some really cool labels. You guys are going to see how everything kind of came together. And also don't forget to check out the blog post. I spent a lot of time kind of putting a little blog post up of like how we actually did this organization process. And it also has links to all the different products that we use if you're interested in them. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there, and I really am happy with how this turned out.
But before we can get to the spice drawer, we had to clean out the spice cabinet.
So after I removed everything from the cabinet, I was so excited because I could give it a nice like cleaning and just like clean out the entire cabinet with nothing in it. It's like when you move the couch and you can vacuum under it. It's just like so. Anyway, I digress. After I did that, I wanted to sort of do an inventory of what we even had, kind of categorize things, put them in order of like different kinds of spices, see if there were any duplicates, which there were, because there were things that we had open that we didn't know we had in there already, and all that kind of stuff.
Also, there was stuff that we had that was like in there that we used primarily for like photos or something, like full jars of things as opposed to just like ones that have like a little bit in there, that kind of thing.
And the random like unlabeled jars full of spices that Brian's created over the years where I'm like, what is this? And he opens it and sniffs it and he's like, oh, it's that one thing I made like 2 years ago. I'm like, cool. But anyway, so I organized everything and kind of got a lay on what we actually had. right. So after we did that, everything, all those spices you see, sat on our island for about 2 weeks while I contemplated getting on to the next step. I'm not joking.
She kept telling me, she's like, no, don't move those. Don't move those.
They're
Like,
in a certain order.
I'm like, I have to cook at some point.
But the problem with this whole thing, and the reason why I didn't do this back in August when I first got all the products, was, as you're seeing, we had to film every step of the way. And so it wasn't just about me being able to go in and do my organization thing, which I actually really love to do, as you can tell. It was about making sure we had the right shots so that we could show you guys and bring you guys along, and making sure we had the lighting and all that kind of stuff set up. So once we were ready to get on to the next step, the first thing that I did was cut the liners. Like I said, the rolls that they cut really easily with scissors, actually. They include like a little tape measure, and you just measure out to your drawer what you want it to fit. I bought 2 rolls because we didn't have quite enough to cover our drawer with just 1 roll of it. Again, I'll link to that product if you guys want to check it out. I find that it's actually working quite well. Another thing to keep in mind, as if you use these drawer liners, they do, since they're in a roll, they don't stay flat. So you have to kind of like put down a few little spices on either end. And then after, I don't know, a few minutes, they laid flat. But it needs the weight to kind of like lay it flat. So if you notice that they're curling up in the beginning, don't get worried. They will straighten out. So as far as the actual jars themselves, I decided I wanted to have all clean, uniform jars. I wanted everything to match. So we got rid of all the old ones. We did recycle a lot of those. And then also we kept a lot of the glass ones just to reuse for other things. They make really great containers for all kinds of different purposes. But anyway, the set of 36 that I bought came with stickers that went on the tops of the little lids, the little circle ones that you'll see me put on. And those actually are really nice, because then if you do have them sitting down, you can kind of get like a bird's eye view of like, oh, here are all the spices that I have. But I wanted something for the sides of the jars that would be a nice, big, bold label. And I found these white, like super all caps, really clear, clean labels that I bought as an extra set to use for the sides. Then there's a third set of labels that actually came with the jars as well, and we'll show you where we use those a little bit later. But I really like how clean and nice everything came out, especially when we're using these for filming and taking photos, and you guys can see very clearly like here's what we're using and all that kind of stuff. So there you have it.
Well, not exactly. That's not where the story really ends. If you saw in that footage, Jessica organized everything alphabetically, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Now, I don't process herbs and spices alphabetically. I process them by category, what they work well with, what they pair with. And so we ended up using the alphabetical order for a couple of weeks just to, see if maybe I got used to it and stuff. And it was just like every time I would go to look for a spice, I'd be like, and where is this? Normally I had these sitting next to each other, but I'm like, no. And so I decided that we should group it according to the way my brain works, which is in sort of these categories of like herbs, spices, peppers, and random.
Yeah. So I talked to Brian, so I was like, okay, I took them all out and I was like, how do you want these to be organized? How can we do this? I kept them alphabetical within their little categories. And then as we got to the ends of the rows, we had some kind of extra random ones. So you can see kind of where we decided. So this is up to you. You can decide how you want to organize them based on how you use them. I would suggest putting them one way for a few weeks, try it out, see if it works for you, and then move on. Now, for me, I'm a recipe follower. So when I'm looking for something, alphabetical makes sense because I'm just looking for, I need celery seed. Where is celery seed? It's under C. For Brian, he's a recipe developer. And so for him, he's opening this drawer and he's looking like, what spices should I add to this dish? This is the kind of flavor I'm going for. And so it's very interesting how the differences work. Now, I am very good at memorization. So for me, like, it'll take me a little bit of getting used to the order that he has, but it's going to be pretty easy for me to get used to it.
Yeah, she organized by alphabet, I organized by genre. So,
And if you're curious how, the categories we broke it down into and and you want to get a little closer look at it, in the blog post, I actually have a list of everything that is in this drawer and how we organized it and photos and all that good stuff as well. So Brian, here's the thing. I can tell people how to organize their spices until, the end of time. But how do you figure out how to use these spices?
The biggest tip that I can tell you to figure out how to use spices and herbs and any other kind of seasoning is to taste it and smell it. Those two things are the biggest indicators on what'll actually turn out for a dish. That's how you know that nutmeg and cinnamon can actually go in a savory dish. That's how you realize that you can use things like ginger in a multitude of different types of sweet and savory applications. The same thing for oregano and mint, because oregano and mint are fairly similar in species type. And so you just learn after smelling and using them in something that they just work together in certain groups. I can't explain it. I'm not saying that there are rules for any of this, but I know that garlic and onion powder go well together because they just do. It's just naturally those two types of things go together. And so that's how you learn by doing, okay? Like, you can sit here and be like, okay, well, what do I do with fennel? Well, have you used it in something? Because if you haven't used it in something, then you don't know what you're actually going to do with that. See, and sometimes this will lead to absolutely horrible things, like the time that I added caraway seeds to our black bean soup, and Jessica hated it so much that she didn't want black bean soup for a very long time.
That was a long time. I like how you still remember that. That
she
was
still talks about it.
That was seriously like, I don't know, 7 years ago.
Yes. But once you've used them and maybe had a few missteps, you can start to learn what actually goes well together. And but as far as like any of these seasonings go, each one of them has their own applications, their own things that they can add to it, their own flavors and smells that they can add to any dish. And so just try them out. Just test them, see what happens, taste them, sniff them. Keep in mind, you're probably going to sneeze some as well whenever you do that.
Or you can just be like me and follow Brian's recipes.
That's true. I can do all the legwork for you for the most part. But if you want to try and make your own stuff, by all means, go ahead and give it a shot. Yeah, but that's it. That's the whole grand adventure.
Well, there was one more thing. Brian actually came up with this really good idea, and I was super excited. So when he started pulling out spices, he's like, where do they go? Like, where do they go back in? Like,
yeah,
my brain could do the alphabetical when we still had an alphabetical order. Like, I was fine with that. But he was sitting there like, okay, where, I have two S's out, like which one go,
Yeah. So it ended up actually leading me to do one spice at a time. So instead of what we would normally do, which is pull out everything and then, do the mix or whatever, it was more like, okay, this one I pull out, I measure out what I need and then put it back. And then the next one. And like, it's just, it irked me to do that. But
so Brian suggested, he's like, why don't we put labels on the actual spice drawer liner and then showing where everything goes. And then I was like, oh, the set that I bought of jars came with another set of labels that are kind of like not super pretty. They're not as nice looking as the other labels.
They aren't big either.
They're not very big, but they actually worked perfectly, and we just stuck them onto the liner. And so when we got everything organized the way we wanted it, I stuck them all on there. So now we also know exactly where everything goes back. So that makes me super happy.
Yep. All in all, I think it turned out great. It was a wonderful collaboration between the two of us and our skill sets and the way that our minds work. And I'm very, very happy with the way it turned out. Also, I really hope that you guys enjoyed it too, because now in all of our videos going forward, you get to see these lovely giant glass jars with the spices on display or the herbs on display and clear reading on what's on the side. So you don't even have to go and like look for one specific brand or anything like that. It's boom. It's right there.
Also, you guys might be wondering what we did with the cabinet behind us since we took all the spices out of it. So the bottom section of it, we actually used to house a lot of our salt-free seasoning blends. So I actually had this little tiered organizer that has all of those on there, like Brian's Andy Ruse stuff, the Dax seasonings. We have a bunch of like no salt, like Mrs. Dash kind of knockoff from Target or Aldi or wherever. To the right of that is just kind of a overflow of just random stuff that didn't really either we couldn't fit in the drawer, we don't use as often, that kind of stuff. And then above that, we have kind of a like cocoa powder, like liquid kind of stuff like balsamic vinegars and vanilla and that kind of stuff. And then above that, we have like nutritional yeast and another overflow of more of Brian's like spices that he got when he was in England, and like tahini and that kind of stuff. And then the very top is just like random baking stuff that we don't really use that often. So I'm still working on this. There's still room to add more stuff to that cabinet now, actually. And I'm not really sure, but I like how everything kind of has space now and it's not like all piled on top of each other, and I can actually find stuff, which is really cool. But yeah, so that's what we ended up doing with the cabinet.
Yeah, I'm quite happy with it too. It looks fantastic. So thank you to everyone who watched this video for enjoying this lovely little tour and organizational tips and tricks and whatever this actually happened to be. I'm not entirely sure. This video is like 4 different topics altogether. So,
but comment below if you guys want to see more of these kind of videos. I am going to be organizing other areas of our kitchen, and we can take you into the pantry or some of these drawers that have a bunch of random kitchen stuff in there. I find this stuff to be really fun, and hopefully it will inspire you guys to organize your own kitchen. And it makes me so happy now to open this drawer. It makes me want to cook more. So like, I feel like if you don't want to, you feel like you're needing some motivation to get in the kitchen and cook, maybe organizing it and making it a little bit easier for yourself will inspire you.
Yep. But you can subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already and click the bell that is right next to that button, and you will get notified whenever we post a new video. You can also find us on social media, mainly Facebook and Instagram, and you can message us on there and interact with us. We do greatly appreciate that. Also, please like and share the video and get this out in front of other people who maybe want to also organize their pantries. But I think that's all I got.
That's definitely all I got.
We will see you next time on Crocs in the Kitchen. Bye.